Now we're here at the Western Film Fair in Winston-Salem, where we caught up with this very special guest who has traveled more than any person in history. How do I know that? Because it's the star of the Time Tunnel. He is still traveling somewhere in the Time Tunnel. We don't know where he is, but we know he's sitting here, at least his alter ego. We're with Robert Colbert. Bob, how you doing?
Fine. Just came from the moon to South Carolina.
The moon is not, yeah.
The moon is not all it's racked up to be.
You loved working in TV westerns, didn't you?
That was my favorite.
Why was that?
Well, you're outside. You get to ride the horses up through the mountains and the scenery wherever you are. You get to, during the breaks, you get the best equipment in the world, and you go out and you play cowboy. Well, who wouldn't like that? You know, rather than sitting in a sound stage for 14 hours a day.
Right. And of course, you had a lot of experience. This guy here, I have to say, for somebody who was lost for a year in a time tunnel, you always seem to be in the right place at the right time. In the Army, discovered by radio, discovered by somebody wanting to put you in a stage play, discovered by Mickey Shaughnessy, discovered by Warner Brothers. You're always in the right place, What is it with you?
Well, I told him I'm everywhere. I'm ubiquitous.
Well, I don't even know what that means.
I don't either, but I am that. It's what I am.
Now, when you were cast for the Time Tunnel, because a lot of people know, well, I know you were in Maverick and you were in all these great westerns, but when you were cast, Irvin Allen was doing the Time Tunnel. That was just a great show. It was a popular show. Was it fun to do?
Probably as much as any show I did, because it was like an anthology. You didn't know who your guest stars were going to be the next week. It could be Joseph Cotton. It could be Victor Mature. You just, you know, it was wonderful.
And teachers said, teachers around the country used to say it was great for them because you went to these historical
Absolutely.
places.
The teachers loved us.
Yeah.
And the reason, of course, you know, they could assign the kids a story about Robin Hood, and they'd go home and work on it, or they'd see the show and get inspired.
Yeah, they may not have wanted to read a book about something, but then they'd see you do it on the screen, and then it would inspire them to read more about it.
Even though we didn't have the authenticity that history is related to, but we did have the interest of the teachers, and they would assign different classes for the children based upon the show that was coming up that week. It kept the kids interested, sure, made it easier on the teacher, and they had a lot of fun with it.
When Time Tunnel went off the air and you were in demand as a character actor and guest star in many, many shows, and then The Young and the Restless comes along and makes you one of the main stars of that, what was the difference in doing primetime acting and daytime? Which was harder?
Oh, daytime for sure, because when I started in the soap opera, it was 30 minutes live. So you would have to hit your marks. You would have to have your dialogue down to the comma, because it was a time situation. And you had like a 1-minute commercial, a 30-second commercial, or a 2-minute commercial. And during that time, you had to run out, change your clothes. If it was a situation like that, you had to come back, hit your marks, and they would space it out just enough room to set that commercial in there.
Right.
But I want to tell you, it
grueling.
Well, the show started, and it started on me, and I would have to learn about 30 pages of dialogue a day. Well, I was used to, you know, maybe 12, 14 pages in film, but you also could sit around the set and pick it up and so forth.
Right.
But you had to show up that morning knowing every word. You had to hit your marks. And in the beginning of the show, it was grueling, because here you would walk in and you had to establish all these characters.
Right.
So your scene would go something all about, Jim, listen, I want to go over and see Chris because Agnes is going to pick Bill up at Henry's house.
You got to remember all those lines.
He didn't know who these people were. They were just names, so it made it really difficult.
I know you've got to go do a speech here in a second, so my last question is, if you were in an actual time tunnel, where would you want to travel to?
Probably the 50s. Having lived there is the only reason that I would put it on the back burner and say the 20s.
Yeah.
But the 50s were the greatest time in the history of this country. And I would like to go back there and visit again.
Well, let me know where you end up.
Jim,
Thanks, Bob.
I love your work. I love what you do.
I appreciate it.
You've been wonderful for our industry and the people. God love you.
Well, I appreciate
and,
that.
You take care of yourself.
All right, sir.
All right.